Hey guys, this is Tony and welcome to Let's Build a JRPG Part 23. So 22 just finished up, took a 15-minute break, and we're back for another part. In the last one, we basically just spent about 45 minutes to an hour trying to figure out how we wanted to set up the ability action menu to be more clear about whether you're attacking with the hero or the companion. Basically, which of the two units are you choosing to take an action with? Because they both operate on the same turn, so are you attacking with the companion or are you attacking with the hero? Or yellow versus C in this situation, because we don't have the portraits or names or anything set up. So if I choose this one now, I perform the attack, then the companion will switch to the front and be the one to make the action. If we instead choose to do a skill, or I guess we don't have the skill points for it. So if we do an attack with yellow, yellow switches back to the front as well. So that's all working. Pretty happy with that. We show basically the portrait of who's going to use that ability on the right hand side. And then when we go into that sub menu, we show the cost of some of the skills and magics and stuff. So that's functional. Next couple things I'd like to do. Number one, I'd like to try swapping these two as we select things. So as we switch between attackers or switch between different ability types, I want to have these guys actually change positions at that moment to help indicate who's going to be the one attacking, basically. I think I'd also like to pop out this panel here. I was playing with it a little bit before started streaming again. So if we come in here and look at the unit panel, and if we say make the width bigger, it's one way to kind of fake this a little bit, but like just have this pop out a little bit. So if we had a number of these status panels, you can see who's the current one who's acting, just differentiate it a little bit. So it just moves out a little bit. In fact, maybe I will just play with the width. Maybe we'll go from like 200, which it normally is, to changing the width to 250 if this unit group is acting. And then when they're done taking their turn, we go back to 200 with them. So it just kind of does a little, goes a whoop and then back in again. Whoa, too far. So that could be good as a help indication. And I also wouldn't mind maybe putting some sort of like indicator, maybe a box or something, to show which one you currently are selecting here as well. Might be a bit overwhelming, might be too much information, but I want to play with it. And we can always disable stuff. But I think this at the very least is making it a bit clearer who I'm choosing. I think getting these guys swapping is probably priority one. All the panel stuff is more nice to have. So step one, how do these guys switch positions? So currently when I hit attack with this companion, it's at the moment that I perform the action that I swap. Where is that code actually? So if we take a look at the characters, they have a script called row. Row is in charge of setting positions, which get called inside of companion, which there's a function called swap position. And swap position specifically gets called if we are waiting for an ability and we get a new ability, and the new ability, if the unit has a companion, and if the companion, the unit attacking row does not, okay, got it. So basically get my companion component, and as long as I have a companion component, check to see whether or not I'm in the back row, and if I'm in the back row, swap. So I think we want to move this logic to instead be on hover of different actions. We have code, similar code, that happens for selecting. This name panel comes up specifically when this character is hovered, and that script is monster info view. And this has a selection notification, which is basically just turning the alpha on and off of this object. Okay. Where does this get called? We have a script called on unit selected, which listens for on select basically. Do we need to have something similar for the ability buttons then? Sounds like it. So when we set up ability buttons, which is called a command button, I believe is what we actually call the prefab for some silly reason. The button itself is specifically this object. So it sounds like we need a new script, which is basically identical to on unit selected. Okay, turn the music down slightly. The on unit selected basically just has a notification it sends, and it holds which unit it cares about. We also use this same on unit selected to determine which round icon to select as well. Okay, I don't think I want to use the same script. I think I want a new one, but I think it's literally going to be identical. On selected. What was it called? On unit selected. And this lives inside of UI. Okay, so we're going to make a new one of these scripts. So we're going to hit Control D on it, which in Unity is duplicate, not delete. And then we're going to do on ability button selected. Open this one. Okay, and then we're going to rename that to ability button selected. We're going to change the name of the notification. Probably still going to init this thing. Okay. 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 So I actually think this can be simpler. I think what we need is on ability, a button init. We need a reference to on ability selected. which will pass into the prefab. No, it's even simpler than that. Get component in children. On ability selected. This thing gets a reference to ability button. And then we don't even call events, I don't think. I think this thing is literally just this. I think. If this does not equal null, init with this. Okay. And then on ability selected, on select, we just want to call a function, I think. I think basically whenever the button gets selected, we should call back to the ability button script, and we should say that this thing has been selected. And that can be just here, and it can be called selected. Or it can even be on selected. I think it can be the same idea. And then this gets called like so. I don't think we need to pass any event info, and I don't even think we need the deselect on this. And then this on select, this is where the real code starts. So everything up until now is just setting it up. So we're going to add this new script. This new script on button selected is going to go on to the button. Like so. There's some errors. I didn't make this public. No. I didn't save all the files. We can also just do that. I don't even need to write any of that code. Man, my brain is fried. Okay, maybe we shouldn't have come back for a part 2. Yeah, we just assume that all of this is set up. So just, we don't need the init. Okay, so we call on select, and then on select we will need to swap the companions. Which that logic used to live here. But I think it can just be here now. And the who in this situation is just this unit. Whichever currently selected ability info index we have, we grab that ability info, which will be attack for one or the other of the heroes. We grab that unit, we get its companion, and we grab that unit and we get its row value. If it's in the back, swap them. And I think we can call this as much as we want. Yeah, this is just readjusting buttons. This shouldn't be too process intensive. And I can't see a way in which this breaks. Is it just that simple? We can still leave the code on the action in case something goes horribly wrong too. And then we just need to do the same thing. Yeah, it's just that easy. Man, that should not have taken 17 minutes. Okay, I am done, I think. Well, all right, let's keep going, but this video may not be the highest quality. All right, so we have that swapping. Naked Zeldas with a rate of 1. Thank you. Appreciate it. Let's do the extra bit of logic. So that works for on select, but we need to do the same logic for when we do left rights. So when we do update button info. So when we call update button info, we also need to call on selected. Same way, same idea. We can do it at the bottom if we want, after we've done all the other logic. Okay, so now when we hit left and right on the buttons, choose who we're attacking, and as we move up and down through, we should swap the hero's position to indicate who the attacker will be. So here we swap, and here we swap. So we're swapping back and forth between them. I can choose who I'm going to attack with. Yeah, that's way better. I like it being way more reactive. So instead of on the actual attack we swap as soon as you choose. It helps even more reinforce who you're choosing to be your actor for this round. I don't have a better term for that. Okay, cool. Can produce thunder. Some of our UI text got a little messed up too recently. I gotta figure out what's going on with that. We can do skill, flame slash, attack this guy. Okay, cool. So then the next thing I'd like to do is potentially do some sort of small highlight on these things. Well, two things. Number one, when a unit takes a turn, I think it'd be cool to change this width to be like 250, so it expands out slightly, so it pops a bit away from the other ones, to indicate that this is the person going, helping to reinforce that this line is your action, essentially. And then I'd also like to add, as you swap back and forth between heroes, having some sort of like indicator here, even just a background or something to help highlight which character you're currently choosing to attack, so you can see the stats as well. We want to just add a little bit of motion here, even if it's just something popping on and off. So let's start with the character info view. Let's start by adding a new background that will turn on and off based off of which character is currently selected. So inside of that prefab, which I believe is called character info view, yes it is, Open prefab. Interesting. All the variables are empty. Oh, is that not the same one? Status? Ah, this is the one we're looking for. Okay. Yeah, let's just add just a basic vary behind everything else. Make it like slightly... Oh, color picker went to the other monitor. Make it like slightly gray maybe. And then we'll stretch it to be the size of the background. Kind of like that. Text is clipping a little bit. We can make it go a little bit beyond. Maybe -2 on all sides. Like that. Okay, cool. And then we can probably make it slightly transparent too. It doesn't need to be full opacity. It's just a little bit of an indicator. And now we just need to add a reference to it inside of our script. So public image background highlight seems like a good name. And I think we're going to have to write another callback for this. So right now this has these observers. Here is where we're going to need similar code to where we were looking at for the on unit selected. So let's go to on unit selected. Here we had this selected deselected call. I think we're going to want something similar. So for ability button, it's going to have a notification it can send to let something know that it's been selected. And if we go back to here and see how do we implement that kind of function here, I want to do the same thing in character info. So we want to listen for a ability button selected notification, and we want to on disable remove that observer like that. And then we just need to write a function. So if we look here, what does that function need to look like? Something like this. Okay. Add that to the bottom of the script. Okay, so when we hear that ability button selected notification has come in, we will check to see if the unit matches this unit. And do we not have a reference to our unit here? We have reference to stats, but we don't have a reference to the unit. That's fine, we can keep one. Unit of type unit, and then we can just save this here. Okay, so now we have access to check whether the unit is equal, and then we just want to do background highlight, set activity, game object, set activity, so this is turning it on and off based off of whether or not the unit that's been selected is the same as me, or the same one as what I use. How do I better say that? Basically, this background will turn on if this unit that this character info describes is the unit that's being selected. Okay, so now we just need to send that notification, which is done like this. So whenever we update on selected, at the bottom here, we also want to send off the unit, And the unit will be based off of the ability. Okay. Yeah, seems reasonable. So, long story short, if I wrote all the code right, I should be able to just... let's just rename this selection background. And then let's set the selection background here. And let's make it off by default. Okay. Now when we run the game, if we select a unit in the menu, it should be updating here, but it's not. Interesting. Something is not working as we intended it to. Character infos, listen for on selection events. So we'll just add a few breakpoints. We'll attach to Unity. And then we're listening for on notification, on selected. And let's see what happens now. So if I hit up, we are sending that the thief has been selected. And then, oh, here we do hear that the thief has been selected. And we should be turning on the background, which is set to something. Unit guard. Oh, does not equal thief. Okay. Unit thief equals thief. Okay, so if we break back out here, it should be turned on, but I'm not seeing it. Now, it could be that we just turned the transparency down too low. This object is on, and this object is off. Okay. So is it just not noticeable enough being gray? What if we made it red? Yeah. The gray just blends too much. That's the problem. Okay, that's fine. So we just need to find a better color. The code works. We need a slight... You can also reduce the transparency a bit more. Doesn't need to be so bright. Also a little small, weirdly. Still feels tiny. Maybe we could do -5, -5, -5, -5. Feels a little better. Now, is that the best color? Do something a little bit darker. Darker isn't good. We want something a bit brighter. Something in this orangey blue, maybe? Yeah, okay. Let's set that. So we'll save that as a color swatch. And then we'll go back into the status object. And in here, we'll change this color to be the one that we saved. And we're also going to make it a little bit bigger. So -5, -5. So this is putting it out 5 units beyond the bound. So -5 up, -5 left, -5 down, right? Yeah. So it's just made it a little bit bigger. All right. Cool. So now we should be... Whoa. Something broke. Oh, we hit a breakpoint. We can just stop debugging now. We should have fixed everything. I think that's okay. It might be a little too bright, to be honest, but let's start with it being overly intense, and then we can go from there. Unsure whether or not we actually need these symbols on the end of the buttons. I know I just spent a huge amount of time setting them all up, but with such indicators, is it necessary? Definitely need the left, right, but do we need to show the portrait image on ones that are just single uses? Because you can just go up and down to figure out who's who. Yeah, it's probably fine. This gives me the flexibility. The system is flexible. We can always tweak or turn off different images if we're not liking them. But we can see it highlights the stats for the associated character, and we see that the character who is going to perform the attack is always moved to the front. And then when they perform that attack, they just attack from where they stand. Okay. Companion mechanic becoming more clear. At least that's the hope. So, couple issues. Issue 1. When we perform an attack with a character, once we actually hit select, it stays highlighted. I think I'd like this to go away. It does auto highlight as soon as we get another action though, but I don't think I want it to stay highlighted on the last enemy that was, or the last hero that took an action. I think that we perform the attack with them, we leave it highlighted, and then once they finish resolving their ability, I think we should send out a little message just being like, hey, deactivate any of those. Not a huge deal right now. I actually have a couple ideas on how we could fix that. Maybe we should have it so that when we go to the units, the enemy units, they also select themselves and send out a notification request to say I've been selected. But there's nothing to select for the enemy, so it's probably fine. Actually, that might be an easy thing to test. This is a little wonky, but I want to just see. Wait for character UI state. So when an enemy takes a turn, once he takes his action, what if he sent out a message saying ability button selected notification unit. It says, hey, I'm the one who's fighting now. That should do it. I don't need to actually debug. I just need to run it again in Unity and see if that worked. That should fix it, though. Should be better. So we switch back and forth. We prepare to attack with the companion. The companion attacks. He's highlighted. And then it de-highlights when the enemy takes his turn. And then it highlights again when the hero gets his turn. Okay, yeah. I think that's fine. If we ever do decide to show stats for the enemies or something, then we could highlight those with that call when they're taking their turns. Seems reasonable. Cool. Honestly, thought that was going to take longer. Like, took a little bit to get everything set up the first time to kind of get the swapping. For some reason that took me longer than I think it should have. But for some reason I thought overall the process would be more difficult. You know what, Theory Infinity? I don't have chat turned on right now. So Theory Infinity on Twitch chat asks, I've been meaning to ask, are those literal trash mobs? Okay. I asked Drixie for monsters because we had some placeholder characters and I was like, I want some placeholder monsters to use so that we're not fighting like scaled up versions of the golem. And this is what she gave me. I don't think she knows the term trash mobs. I think she just wanted to make trash golems for the sewers. But yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. They're literal trash mobs. But intention was not in there. that was not there. There was intent. There was no intent, but this is what we have now. There are more characters coming. I don't know if I want to... Let me see if I can... I'll quickly bring up one of the concept pieces. I do want to make a full video on this at some point, because a lot of this is still kind of placeholdery. But Drixie has a friend helping with concept art, and then Drixie is taking those concept pieces and pixelizing them, but we're right now struggling to come up with a pixel style. Again, there's a lot I could talk about on the art front, and I want to make a dedicated, like, recorded and edited video about that. Can I save as image? Save as image. Yes. Doing things off camera. And then let's open this. Here we go. So these are some of the characters that we're currently playing with. Some very early concepts for some of the sewer monsters. So eventually they will be replaced. I currently like this guy. I want him to shoot fire blasts. I think he's gonna be a good boy. I love him so much. All right. But yeah, so there's concept pieces being done, but there's a separate video that I would like to make dedicated to talking over some of the concept pieces and just general talking about some of the progress we've made over the last 6 months or so. I have not been as good about doing dev vlogs as I would like, or dedicated dev videos. Okay, so we are now showing the selection of who's going to perform an action. If we have companions, we are able to select between those companions to do attacks for either or. So if we have an attack option for them, we can go left and right to switch between them, and it will actually swap the character's row position depending on who will perform that action. We are also highlighting the stats. If we go down over these buttons, it will also switch back and forth. And if we go in here, we can select. I think the next thing that I think would be good is I would like to change it so that that sub menu, when we bring it up, doesn't cover our units, so we can still see who's performing that action. I think this whole menu system could be smaller. I think there's a UI pass we could do. Yeah, there's probably a big UI pass we could do. That arrow sticking out is going to be a problem too. Yeah, we need to make all of this smaller. But we could do something like that for now. And I also think that should be good enough. That should be... I was thinking we could also have a portrait of whose abilities we're in right now, but, like, probably not necessary. There's such a thing as too much information being given. Okay. I think we're good. Honestly, the last several like streams have really been about trying to nail down the like clarity of like what's going to happen when I perform this attack, who's doing it, and if I'm doing a magic, what's being produced, right? Or what's being consumed in terms of elements. And I think that the way that we have elements showing up now with the minuses, and we actually pull those elements in and then do the attack, I think all of this is becoming much more clear. When we switched computers, I lost some particles. We need to rehook up the actual attack particles again, because I don't keep the particles on the repo, and I had to say anyways. But when I got the new computer, voice is starting to go. When I got the new computer, I lost the particles. So that's the only thing that I can see right now that's a little bit off, is guys just die, but the particles help a little bit. I think attack animations and some other things would also help with some of the clarity, but do we have the attack appearing above their head? You can see that that's the person using it. You can see them doing damage. Yeah, I think we're ready to maybe start digging into actual balancing. Because I could have balanced and made interesting combat a while ago. We had enough of the pieces, but I want it to be playable by people who aren't me. And that's what a lot of this has been leading up to. Because if you just hand it to someone and you don't know who's attacking or what's required or why you can't select certain abilities, it gets very frustrating very fast. But I think we have enough dedicated information that we could probably make some interesting choice combat. Make some combat with some interesting decision loops. It's the design way to say that, I think. Okay. Only other thing worth looking at today, probably, because I don't have a lot of time and I don't want to dig into anything big like that huge design problem, is how to show that this is not a usable skill. If I don't have enough energy to use this, or I don't have enough SP to use this, how is that indicated? Because right now there is no indication of that. Oh, also I want to move the menu, which I think I can just do. Let's turn this on. And I think the sub menu is anchored to it. Yeah, so I just need to move the sub menu like that, and that should just work. Okay, and then we can turn those off. That's actually super easy. But the disabling of the button. So if we go to this prefab, do we want to do like gray text maybe? Is that enough to indicate that you can't use this ability? Also, where do we write that code? I bet you that code is on update, is ability enabled. And what is this is ability enabled currently used for? To determine whether or not you're allowed to click the ability. But we actually want to use this to determine someone in chat is asking a question about who I am, and you are incorrect, sir. That is not me. You have found the wrong person. Wrong stream, who dis? Alright, so let's do button name. Let's see if we can write some code. If button name color if it's enabled, what is this color? 34, 16, 255. Okay. Is equal new color 32, 16, 0. And by default, it'll be 255. Else, button color is it's not super readable. Could add an outline to it. Oh, this is a shader global thing. Or like it's on all versions. Okay, okay. Let's just leave it gray. Let's try 135 maybe. What if we did like... No. Yeah, let's just try 135. Some slightly gray color, and then we'll see what this looks like in-game. That'll help tell us whether or not it's right, because it's hard to see it, like when it's so zoomed in and everything. And maybe that will be enough, like if it's a different color, but I don't think it is. Like part of me wants to also have, maybe like if you're missing the element, blink the elemental meter, the missing pieces. Or if you're missing SP, maybe highlight that somehow. That's yellow. What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? What? But, but, but what? Did I fill them in incorrectly? What is this madness? Red 34, green 16. Red 34. Wait, now my brain's broken. What's happening? Red 34, green 16, blue 0. Red 34, green 16. Okay, clearly something has gone terribly awry. But what? How did setting it to these color make it yellow? And it is this code, right? Or does the button name color get changed color somewhere else and I just never noticed? Let's comment it out and make sure that I didn't just like completely forget that it's always been yellow. Because maybe that's possible. Maybe it's always been yellow and I've just forgotten. Nope. Okay. So setting it to the color I think it should be, if it's enabled, is turning it yellow. What? What? Why? Why would you do this? Why would this be the choice you make? Okay, color. Is it because it needs to be in decimals instead of... Wow, okay. Well, you know what? Yep, it is. It's a float value. So divide it by 255. Sure, Unity. Sure. Let's do that to just test if it's right. And if it is, then I can get the color picker to show me the values in 0 to 1 instead of 255. But come on, Unity. Come on. Yeah. Also, tooltip thing, more of a distraction, more of a hindrance than a help. Does it turn itself on? Panel object. Just gonna, for the time being, just turn off. Actually, better yet, rather than change the code, we'll just disable the thing that's turning it on and just toggle that off and hit save. Okay. Because the tooltip is just adding more unnecessary information at this point. Okay, so that's working. So it does need to be decimal numbers between 0 and 1, not the actual values the color picker is showing me. It's fine. It's okay, Unity. I get it. It's hard. Lots of people want different things. So if we change this to 0 to 1, then we can get the true values of what I want, rather than having to do math inline. So we want this to be that value, apparently. And we want green to be this value, apparently. And then really just using this as a calculator now, but that's fine. I want the rest of these to be this value. Okay, that should be a little bit better, and then we gonna just get rid of that color change. Okay, so we're now changing the color to be gray if you can't use the ability, which seems reasonable. I wanted the actual thing to highlight and blink the missing color, how bad would that be to do? Is that a 2-second thing or is that a 1 hour thing? Well, need to find it first. Okay, so it's in here. It's going to be this elemental fill. So we want that, and then we probably want to isolate its alpha. Oscillate its alpha, I mean. Turn off tween color. Ah, yes. Okay, it's being animated. So we need to add canvas group and manipulate its alpha this way. Is that more of a help or a hindrance? So if you're missing this element and it starts blinking like this, to me that could also indicate that I have that element and it's going to be used, is the other way that that could be interpreted. So I don't know if that helps indicate that you're missing it. Because we could write some code that if you highlight this thing and the cost isn't high enough, then kick off an event that will cause this thing to pulse until you deselect this button or something. But like, it's honestly probably going to be a bit finicky, and I don't know if this helps. Because we could do the inverse too. We could make it go from full to like 75% or something. To indicate it's going to be used, but if you're missing it, we could go from like 0 to like 255 to indicate you don't have it. But again, I don't know if that's smart or bad. It's hard to say. Yeah, because it's going to be tweening on its own, so we'd have to use canvas group as the way to change its... to animate it. Missing. Going to be consumed. But then what does that look like? Oh, here's a problem. What if it uses 2? Right now this is one object that we just do a radial fill on to actually like fill in the sections. But the thing I'm trying to describe would actually need each of these to be a separate image, because we might get into a situation where you have one and it would want to consume the first one. So we'd want to blink it from like 75% alpha up to 100% alpha, but you're missing this one. So we'd actually want to blink this one from 0 to 25 to indicate it's missing. Yeah, this seems more confusing than helpful. Likely unnecessary. That's the end result. Likely unnecessary. Probably smart. Leaving it up to the players is fine. Because the player can look here and realize, oh, I don't have that, and oh, I don't have this. It's just whether or not gray is a good enough indicator. I mean, the fact you can't select it and it's a different color from the other buttons, it's probably fine. Probably overcomplicating it. But if I don't think about it, I won't have answers. I won't be able to convince myself it's a good or bad idea. Okay. So the only other thing that I think that we could do to help with confusion, which I'm waiting on because Drixie's still working on some art, is probably portraits. Instead of having yellow and red and the sea and gray boxes, but actually show the appropriate portraits of who's attacking. That's probably the last big missing communicator. And even though Drixie doesn't have the final character art for me, it might be better for me just to cut some portraits and use them instead. Because this is just an image. We just need to replace it with a better image for the portrait. Let's try it. Okay. So, Hero 1. These are the ones we're currently using. Show in folder. Opening Krita as a new file. Okay, so let's... How do we do this? Resize canvas? 16 by 16? That's probably too small. Resize canvas 32 by 32. Okay, and then if we just... Actually, probably don't even need the selection. We can just move him down till his head fits. And then do we want a background behind him? That seems reasonable. All right, let's export that as Hero 1. Yeah, this isn't going to take very long. Okay, yeah, I should have done this a while ago. Let's do the same thing with Rogue. Open a new document. Same size. Try and keep everything consistent. Resize canvas 32 by 32. Go to the Move tool. Like that, I think. Add a new layer in behind. We've got the same color picked. Okay, export as Hero 2. Okay, bring in the golem, open in a new document. He's amazing. He's my favorite character by far. Resize canvas, 32 by 32. Move like that. Add a new layer. Drag it down, paint the background, export. It'd probably be better to do transparent backgrounds, honestly, and then just put the whatever color I want in the background of the actual thing in the game, but okay. So those are set up. So now if I run the game, ideally, those portraits should just be what gets used. What is going on with his eyes? What? Yeah, it's broken that way. Okay, let's go see if we can figure out why. Does not look that way here. Export. Doesn't look that way there either. Ah, it's Unity import settings. Ah, it imported these things with weird settings. So we want to have probably that so there's no compression. Point for the filter mode. Apply. Yeah, that cleans that up nicely. All right, better. Then we just need the gray monster image, which for the time being we can use Trash Golem. Show an Explorer. Open Krita. drag that image in. Oh, sorry. Drag that image in, open in a new document. I don't think he's going to work. The other ones were designed to actually be a certain size. Yeah. Let's try... Wow. Scale image to new size. Let's do nearest neighbor so that we kind of keep a pixely look. And let's make him 64 by 64. Okay. And then, yeah, seems good. And then we're going to do resize canvas. And then we're going to resize it to 32 by 32. We did it. We made pixel art. I still don't know where... where does his image live? It's not hero. Let's take a look in addressables. Asset management, addressables. Drag this window into here. Local groups. Where's the enemy's portrait? Okay, let's tackle this from a better point of view. Instead of trying to find it that way, let's go in here and actually look. Monsters? Monster 1 is what we're looking for. Okay, so then if we go back into Unity, Monster 1 should be in this list somewhere. It is. Monster 1. It's under Art. It's a PNG. Oh, it was right there. It just blended in. It's invisible. It's the same color as Unity. All right, so that's what we need to save over. So file, export, monster 1, save over that. Yeah, I should have done this a while ago. This is going to make a big difference. Okay. Yeah, that helps a lot with clarity. This now feels weird to me, though. It was starting to feel a little weird. It's annoying because we spend like several hours thinking about this stuff, but sometimes the only way to really figure out whether or not something is going to work or feel good is to put it in motion. For me personally, anyways. Oh, wait, the companion doesn't have his icon. Oops. I think I exported over the wrong one. Not a huge deal, because these are all just placeholder images anyways, but I think it was supposed to be companion icon. Replace. Import. And then we want to make sure that we actually set these to be the same setup. So we want to do 32-bit, point, and 100 should be fine. Okay. So that they don't get all blurry and stuff. I mean, any more blurry. But yeah, this feels weird when we have all the same character and it's just their portrait on the end. Oh boy. I mean, welcome to game dev. You think of something, you try it, you spend a bunch of time implementing it, and you go, that don't really work, does it? Doesn't actually kind of do what you want it to do. Kind of a little bit cluttery, kind of weird. All right, well, sometimes that's the way the cookie crumbles. I'll leave it for now, obviously. We put a bunch of work into it, and I do think it does help with clarity, especially here. It's like, oh, these are her skills, these are his skills. But it is a bit overwhelming with information. But I'd rather have overwhelming information than just confusing, like, I don't get why anything is happening. I think the main guy who doesn't have a companion is the one that causes the most confusion, because it's just like it's all his face. Maybe if you don't have a companion, we shouldn't show it. Maybe that's the solution. Nah, I'm not going to find the solution now. I'm going to play with it for a week or two and see if something comes to me as I kind of muddle my way through. We need to have something on cancel that actually disables this too. This is a very small bug, but I need to write that down because I'd like to fix that at some point. But when we hit back, we should remove the enemy nameplate. Cool. I still got a few minutes to kill. Let's do something I've been meaning to do for a while. Probably one of the most cathartic things you can do in gaming, which is delete dead stuff. We no longer display the character info panel, which was how kind of we started out. So you know what? Not in use anymore. We don't use it. It doesn't do anything. Character info view got repurposed, but this is dead. So now it's dead. This is monster info view. I don't believe this gets used anymore anywhere. So if we just, what does this look like? Yeah, that's just the thing. We're gonna delete that as well. Oh, cleaning up the code. We're gonna rename this thing that's just called panel to elemental displays, because I'm always trying to find this thing and I never can because it's named poorly in here. That's fine. That's fine. That's the background image. That's okay. This I think we can rename to main. Well, it's UI main. It's just the UI. That's what that is. It's a better name. Okay. Let's see. What else can we tear out of here? Pointer. We still use pointer. Action menu still gets used. Tooltip we'll leave in for now. I would like to make that work at some point. This is the camera that makes the UI work. I'm just going to put it to the top. What are these things? Button? Oh, that's no longer used anymore. Is that referenced anywhere? Button, cancel button pressed. Button, send notification. That seems to be dead code, so I think we can remove that. We definitely remove the button. The question is whether or not we still need button send notification. This is sometimes the tricky thing in Unity, is trying to find whether or not something is still used. Like I can put it in here to see if it's used anywhere in this location, and it doesn't look like it. So there's a high probability that I'm fine to delete this object. And it should be in source control if I need to get anything back. Same thing with the monster views, info views, that can probably go. All right, and then victory canvas, that we use. That's the end screen. Let's move that up here. Does this have its own camera? It inherits from the previous canvas. Okay, that's fine. Pointer, action frame. Let's stick all of this other stuff under its own object. We're just doing some cleanup now. We got some time to kill today. We're just going to do a little bit of cleanup and just organize the scene a little bit. Turn order. This is all to do with turn order, so we'll put all these round stuff under here. Canvas-based pools, so that's the damage effect, that can stay there. What is this thing called? Just image. That's the loading screen. Loading screen. Probably a better name for it. Okay, the rest of that seems fine. This is the old combat scene. None of this is being used anymore. We don't use that. We don't use that grid. We do use a particle camera. We don't use any of this lighting stuff anymore because we've gone 2D and it's no longer necessary. And this is our screenshot tool. Okay. Managers, we still use all these managers, I'm pretty sure. Yep. Okay, it's just a little bit cleaner. I don't like how some of these pieces are all over the place, but it's kind of the way Unity decides to build some of its UI pieces. Well, I can change them, I could do it differently, it is on me, but I like the default setup. It seems to work the best most of the time. Okay. I would like to change this so that we actually generate these buttons the same way we do for like unit statuses. Like unit status is empty, but we have some code that actually adds all of the like character infos into that. In the same way, we did this a very long time ago and we were doing it very quick in the first early parts of the series where I didn't want to do that kind of on load, but I would like to change that at some point here. This should also probably be in a scroll view in case you have more than 4 buttons and it goes outside the menu. Let's see if we can make this look better. There's a lot of extra white space around the edge here. It's not a great... Oh, these overlap. Well, that's unfortunate. Yeah. Narrow that in a bit. The problem is it's going to be uneven because sometimes we don't always show the elemental display, and if we don't show the elemental display, this looks off. In fact, I don't think we'll end up showing the elemental display on any of these main abilities. So what if we just made it look good like that? Okay. That looks a little cleaner. It's a little more tightened up. This guy can be over a little bit more. Could also be up a little bit more like that, I think. And then the same thing here. I think this could be 15 and 15 as well, so that this just looks a little bit cleaner. And then we need to add a little bit more spacing on the x-axis. Yeah, gotta do a full UI pass at some point, but nah, this looks better-ish. Okay, so we turn that off by default and that off by default and give that a run and make sure everything still works. Nope, it broke. It didn't like me deleting monster view. Apparently that was still in use, but only in name. That isn't used anymore, and this isn't used anymore. Just cleaning things up, making it better. Really? The nameplates were still using monster info view. It did get repurposed. Let's see here. Discard the deletion. So it was used there, but I don't think it was needed to be used in the code where we found it. So that was still a good removal. Yeah, so this got reused. But it didn't need to be in the, like, the other pieces of code we removed were valid to go. They're from the way it was used before when it was on the bottom panel. but it got reused as the name panels. Unity may be upset with me for that. Let's see. Nope. Okay. Still showing up and working correctly. Sometimes if you delete a script and then re-add the script back via source control, Unity will be like, I don't know where it went, but it seems okay. It's probably because we reverted back the meta file as well. Or discarded the deletion of the meta file as well. Okay, cool. This is looking better. This is looking a lot better. Even just putting the actual portraits in helped quite a bit. Oh, I forgot to check what this new look was going to look like with these things. So now these overlap the edge. All right, fine. This action panel just needs to be slightly bigger. Okay, cool. I think that's probably it for me today, though. Just a little bit of cleanup near the end here. I need to make sure this is off by default. It is. Okay, good. Yeah, so we changed around the ability system so that now we actually show the portrait of the enemy, or the portrait of the unit who will perform that attack. We added some left-right so that you can actually swap between characters. And we also made it so that when you swap between those characters, it also swaps the units in place. So it'll actually change who's in the front based off of who's going to perform that action. We also changed it so that there's a slight highlight on the stats themselves. So over here we can see which character will be performing that action, not just by the front, but also by who's currently highlighted, also helping us decide, oh, whose SP do I need to be looking at. Quickly made it so that letters can be grayed out if you can't use them. Seems reasonable. And then we added a couple portraits and just cleaned up the scene a little bit. And I think, not bad. Not bad. Next time we come back, I don't know. There's a lot to do, but I have no idea what the next steps are. This is kind of the end of a really good progression for me, though, of trying to just clean up the visual language of the actual combat system. I think I'd like to maybe show both characters' portraits up here, because now when I do this attack with this guy, it's going to show the rogue up here, even though he's the one in front. Like, if they don't hot swap between them, but that does, like, yeah, we might want to show both. Again, getting very nitpicky now, but the core who's doing what and can I do things is a lot more clear. And I think now we could probably start coming up with some actual kind of enemy archetypes, trying to build some patterns, trying to make some puzzle moments where you're actually making decisions about whether or not to produce an element or consume an element. And then honestly, probably one of the other big things to add is the item menu. So when we kill all the enemies, they drop potions, and then the ability to use those potions from like an item command window, and then select someone and actually use cures. Also Phoenix Downs. Those are honestly probably the next big mechanics, is getting items in, getting items adding to your inventory, getting items to heal you, and if you die, being able to revive a character and making sure that reviving a character puts them back into the queue properly. They start getting turn orders, blah, 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 blah. Death and healing is probably the next big problem to tackle. But that will be for another day, potentially on camera or off. For now, this will be Tolhi signing out. Later, guys. And thanks for watching.